Oh, that's right. I'm dancing to the theme music because the Longhorns are the number 2 team in the country. See, Coach dancing to the theme music too. A lot of Longhorn fans in the dancing mood as well. You should be. The Longhorns put an Old Testament, old biblical style butt whipping on the Michigan Wolverines in the big house. My man CJ Vogel, lifetime Longhorn, the prodigy, was there. So we'll get his thoughts. And of course, we're joined by the coach, former high school football coach at Vernon, Capel, Brownwood, Rotan, also Belton, played college football at Abilene Christian, also coached there in multiple stints, and also was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head coaches. It's Coach Bob Shipley, y'all. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Hey, my crazy prediction last week. Was that on this show? I don't remember what show it was on. My crazy prediction was that Texas will outrush Michigan.
Oh,
and I was talking out my butt. And I'll be dadgum. Hey, take away the long run that we had by Wingo, and we still that's
no, you're right, Coach.
We weren't doing great until the end. That gave us 50 plus yards, but we still would have outrushed them.
No, you're right, Coach. I got to give defense credit for that, which we will. We'll talk about that. And also, you got to give the offense credit. And that's with a banged up Jaden Blue, Coach. With a banged up Jaden Blue, they still got it done. I think that was most surprising to me. That shows you that running game's got some grit, shows you the offensive line, that is a lot of what they bring to the table. No. There's so much, obviously, to discuss. And I'm with you, Coach. That was a wild prediction, and it seemed crazy at the time, but the Longhorns made you seem like a wise man, which you are, which we know Coach is. All right, so, guys, all your questions and comments, anything you got to say, we'll address it, as many of them as we can. I promise you that. You know that's the top priority for the winning drive. But also we'll talk about Coach. There you go. Hey, Coachy Samuel, you know about that. See, it's 3:21 now. NOU still sucks. So we'll make sure we keep it current. Thank you for reminding me about that. Yes, Burn Orange on, please like that button. If you like whatever, like and subscribe. I believe what the young folks say. All right, we'll actually hear a little bit from Steve Sarkisian. I think we got some of his opening statement. It's pretty lengthy. I don't know if we'll get through the entire thing, but man, CJ was there. So we'll get CJ's thoughts about what the head coach had to say. I want to get Coach's thoughts just about what he had to, what he saw in Texas versus Michigan. I'm sure he's rewatched it by now. I've rewatched it. I think I've rewatched it 3 times, and I got my third. That's it. I'm not rewatching it again. I got my third time out of the way. I'm not rewatching it again, even though it is a fun game to rewatch over and over again. You find all these little nice little tidbits about it. But let's jump right into it, guys. Hit us up. You know how I go. Super chance, jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. Believe Stevie Lee is going to join us. Lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee is going to join us courtesy of Hard Grove Roofing. So we'll get his thoughts about the trenches and the trench play with the Longhorn-Michigan matchup. But I'll start with you, CJ. Coach on the 40 acres today had his Monday media availability. Anything that stood out to you? You were on the ground there in Michigan, but anything that the coach stood out to you today?
Yeah, there was a few things. I thought, first off, he was very complimentary of Quinn Ewers, and I think all of us have been and should be, right? The way in which he came out against what was a very, very difficult front seven from Michigan to throw for almost 200 yards in the first half. He had over 100 in the first quarter. Was making big-time throws on the run, on the pocket, different arm angles. It was really impressive, right? There was pressure in his face, but, to the offensive line's credit and to Quinn's credit, their complementary play of one another, it didn't feel like he was under too much duress all afternoon. No. So I thought Quinn was tremendous in the beginning of that game. I thought the offense really found a groove. Rod, you talk about the runs that Sarkisian goes on. We saw that on display, right before halftime as they put up 24 points on 4 straight possessions. So really impressive overall. Sarkisian, in my eyes, you look at what you can take away from that game and then what you can look at across the country to then build off of your or I guess what else happened everywhere else. He said he brought up the Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
Notre Dame goes on the road, beats Texas A&M. What do? They play Northern Illinois at home, and, well, you lose there as the number 5 team in the country. That's inexcusable. You can't do that if you have national title aspirations. So that play, that game, those highlights, those were on display today in the locker room as Texas prepared for its Monday practice. Sarkisian went over the good, the bad, the ugly, and this was a play that was brought up. That game saying, hey, you can't take anything for granted. UTSA just got whooped by Texas State. What is it, 49-10? They got whooped. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing that they want to do more than get back out onto the field to prove that wasn't the team that they are and that they are a better football team than they put on tape a week ago. their next opportunity is against you. So if you don't bring it, you could be in for a long night. Not saying you're going to go out there to lose, but, Texas is playing to a certain standard right now, and that's kind of being echoed through everybody that we've talked to, whether it be Michael Taft, Jake Majors, Gunnar Helm, everybody today at the player availabilities mentioned that there is a certain level of play that is expected now. A close game to UTSA would be far from what they are anticipating coming into this weekend.
Hey, Coach, before we bring on our Monday guest, I want to get your thoughts, kind of what CJ broke down there, how complimentary Sark was of Quinn. And we'll get to it, but I tweeted this out right before the show. I was just looking at some Pro Football Focus rankings, and I know, Coach, you care about more the eye test than the Pro Football Focus rankings. But I think it relates to the eye test I'm going to ask you about. Quinn Ewers had better Pro Football Focus grades, passing grade, overall grade, and yards per attempt, average depth of target, adjusted completion percentage, and NFL passer rating. Right? He had better metrics in all those categories while under pressure than from a clean pocket. He was so, Coach, and that can just kind of now when I looked it up and I saw that, I was like, that tracks with the eye test. Because I said in the post game, that's the best I've seen Quinn respond to pressure, Coach. And we talked about this in Football Theory, Coach. I said how Quinn handles pressure may really determine this game, in my opinion. Because even though he was awesome in the Colorado State game, he still didn't handle pressure that well. They pressured him 3 times based on Pro Football Focus measurements. 1 was an interception, 1 was a sack. So that's 2 out of 3 that are considered negative plays. And I said if he has that ratio with, obviously what Michigan's going to bring to the table and Dunwich Martindale, it was going to be a problem. But that was not the case, Coach. I don't know if he made a bad decision on the pressure, Coach, in that game.
No, I don't think he did. And there was a lot of pressure. But that's the thing that jumped out at me watching that game was how well he was handling that pressure. And, Wink Martindale gave a lot of exotic looks on 3rd down. I mean, a lot of exotic looks. And Quinn handled it like a champ. He was very well prepared. Congrats to the coach Milwee and Sark and those guys getting him ready. And it was interesting to notice when the 2 studs for Michigan were in at the defensive line. Man, they were having to go sideline to sideline. Yeah, and as soon as they took them out, which they didn't take them out a lot, they played like 40 something snaps. Then you take them out, then we ran right at them. Right at them, man. And I thought that was just great coaching, great game planning. Get those dudes tired, get them running sideline to sideline. And then when they're out of the game, we ran right at them. And we ran right at them with some success, even with Jaden Blue out for a while. We thought maybe he may be out for a long time. Thankfully, he didn't. He wasn't out long, but it was just this team is following Quinn Ewers and the confidence that he has. I don't know if they're feeding off each other. I don't know who the alpha dog is out there on that offense. It very well could be Quinn Ewers because just by his example, because he doesn't say 2 words. I mean, you never see him out there. No. I mean, but it's just the aura he has about him as he silently is an assassin. He ain't beating on his chest. He's not, but he's really vaulting himself into the talk in the Heisman now for sure.
Yeah, no, he actually is. I looked at it, and I believe my man Blake Monroe threw it out there too. You want to go look at his Twitter? That I believe Quinn he now has the best odds to win the Heisman. He leapfrogged a couple of guys after that game because he had Heisman. He had Heisman moments there, CJ. There were Heisman moments. If he is a finalist for the Heisman, they'll play that highlight reel, that montage, and there are a couple of plays in this Michigan game they're going to be on that highlight reel, man. Because they're ingrained in my mind right now. That Gunnar Helm touchdown was that was Chef's kiss. That was avoiding the pressure and then stepping up in the pocket, CJ, and putting the ball on the money, and a little bit of him showing that he can throw the ball on the move. He had so many of those plays that I think NFL scouts looked at, and it answered a lot of questions they had about Quinn.
It's funny. You almost wish Michigan, would have scored earlier in the game to keep it close, so Quinn could have kept, keeping the foot on the pedal. And that's something that Sark kind of mentioned in his presser as well. Is you get up 24-3, and you only score 7 points after that in the second half. Texas has to keep their foot on the gas, as you will, in the second half. And I know that it wasn't ever really in jeopardy, and Michigan never really had a chance to come back in that game. Credit to the defense there, but there are certain moments where I think as a head coach, you look at it and say, yeah, we would have liked to have converted on this third down, or you get the ball at the 48-yard line and you go 3 and out. Well, you got to take care of those opportunities when they present themselves to you, regardless of the score. So it was a great game for Quinn, and certainly as he deserves. I mean, the Heisman talk, everything. I know it's only week 2, but I mean, you play well on the road against the defending champs, top 10 team, and yeah, you deserve some national acclaim there. Was it the SEC Offensive Player of the Week as well? Back-to-back weeks, by the way, that Texas has earned the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week. So, Rod, you talked about the Thorpe Award and what Jahdae Barron needs to do in terms of the week-by-week progression of building your resume. Texas is doing just that for that Joe Moore Award, right? With Cam Williams last week, Jake Majors this week. It's a pretty good start. That's a pretty good start.
Hey, one of the things I saw, guys, that made me think, you know what, this is exactly. I read it on some message board, and it really hit me hard. And it was like, okay, this is real. This is really happening. It said, "Move over, Colt. Move over, Colt."
Yeah,
we got another top dog quarterback finally. And I thought, you know what, that's right, man. I mean, that is right. He's. I don't know that Colt ever played better than Quinn is playing right now.
Ooh.
Do you? When did Colt play? I mean, when did Colt play? I mean, I really think Quinn's playing as good as Colt ever played right now. I really do. And he's got more weapons, and he's got a better offensive line. I mean, it is a fun time. Longhorn for sure. Look at those guys dancing.
That's fun. I agree. In terms of, I haven't seen him play better than he played versus Michigan. And if that is him and he's going to get gradually better every week, that's a scary thought for the rest of college football. I agree with you on that, Coach. You're right. He does have better weapons than Colt had overall. And I think he's got, no doubt he's got a better offensive line than Colt had. Nothing against those guys, but this group, they hadn't seen anything like this. Yeah. All right, let's get to our special guest because he wants to talk some Texas football. I know he does. So we're very grateful to have my man, lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee, my former teammate, and also one of the beloved figures in the Longhorn community. He's joining us right now, as he does every Monday around 3:30, courtesy of our good friends over at Hargrove Roofing. That's right, folks. Know who's on your roof. This segment of The Winning Drive is sponsored by our friends at Hargrove Roofing. Thanks to Hargrove Roofing for sponsoring The Winning Drive with offices all over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Hargrove Roofing is the choice of customers everywhere for superior, reliable service. If you're in need of a new roof, you'll want to know who's on your roof. It's Hargrove Roofing. Know who's on your roof, and courtesy of our friends at Hargrove Roofing, you can get a free roof inspection. Keep that in mind. So if you're thinking about, there's something going on with your roof, hit up our friends at Hargrove Roofing, 512-645-3202, or visit hargroveroofing.com. Stevie, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
What's up, man? Y'all gonna bring me in after Coach said that?
I know. Hey, seriously, comment on that. Exactly. You think the SCJ was like, ooh, like that's a
big statement. And after he said it, I was like shock value. Then I said, he might got a point, man. But you can't throw the prodigal son under the bus, though, man.
No. I'm not. We still got a lot of games left. But when I read that move over Colt, it hit me like I got to thinking. You know what? I don't know when Colt played better than a role than Quinn is on right now. I really don't.
Yeah.
I'll say this though about the coach and Stevie Lee. Seriously, those two big games now. You're talking about beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa and beating Michigan at Michigan. Shout out to my man CB because he threw this out there earlier today. And I'll give him credit because he's the one who did the statistical research on it. But the University of Texas, we do have a thing for ending these historic home game winning streaks by these programs because it happened, and he points out that it happened in 1998. Texas ended Nebraska's 47-game home winning streak. 2002, all right, Stevie Lee, we know about that. We ended a 26 home game winning streak by Nebraska. Then he points out that, of course, here with Alabama last year, Texas ended a 21-game home winning streak. And against the Wolverines, you ended a 23 home game winning streak. Don't forget about Ohio State at the time. We had a 36 home game winning streak going. I will say it does coincide with some special times on the 40 acres. I mean, we were an 11-win team. We should have been a championship caliber team, but we were an 11-win team, so we were pretty good. You're talking about last year's team. That was a really good team, right? Played in the college football playoff in the semifinals. And, going back to that 2000, that team that ended the Ohio State, obviously their home game winning streak, you end up winning a national title. It does say something that you got to be a special team to do something like that, Stevie. You got to be special now.
Yeah, it's true. You're absolutely correct. I mean, special teams like this team right now that go on to do big things in the end of the year. I think that being tested early in the year and staying in it until the end of the year, but this is a new era of college football with the playoffs going on, right? Yep. So, I really do think that this team is special. Watching that O-line maul those guys, it was fun. It was fun, man. And I was listening to you guys talk. Our O-line in the trenches, I feel like we did everything we wanted to do. There was nothing. I mean, we shot ourselves in the foot by having to punt a couple of times, but that was a mistake on us. That was our mistakes. That wasn't anything that Michigan did that made us do that, right? So I just think that Sark and Flood got these guys locked in and dialed in that they can do anything they want to do. Whenever they want to run, they can run it right up the gut. Whenever they want to drop back and pass, Quinn got all the time in the world. So, and that's another thing about Quinn. Quinn has this huge, nice, cohesive offensive line that Colt have that as well, so so we can go back to that, but that's neither here nor there.
No, I'm with you. It's let's talk about the trench play a little bit more. And I know the guys have some questions too, but I got to get your thoughts about the lines of scrimmage. Can you start on defense? Because I saw a package where and I know you probably got giddy about this. They had 3 D tackles on the field to start the game to throw out there in one of their packages. There was a combination at times of Lola, Bill Norton, Alfred Collins, Vernon Bryden. They have different combinations, but 3 D tackles on the field at one time. I mean, that's a creative collaboration with PK and Johnny Nansen, and they controlled the line of scrimmage, man. You took away the power running game from Michigan. Not a lot of teams can do that across the country.
Yeah, I actually really, really like the young. I guess he's not young; he's a senior now, isn't he? Vernon Bryden. Yeah, he's balling, man. He's a good kid too. Dude, the only time we ever put 3 defensive linemen on the field was on the goal line, bro. So, that was fun to watch, to say the least, man. I think that was that's a good package. But man, nowadays, man, if you can't play across the line, the whole entire line, then what are you doing anyway? So you just put your best 3, 4 in there, no matter if they're in a 3 technique or a 5 or a 7. So put them all in.
You like that?
Yeah.
Stevie, I wanted to ask you about that offensive line play. Obviously, we've heard all offseason about the trench play of Michigan with Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham. We saw DJ Campbell with the highlight reel, pancake block. Hayden Connor was effective. Jake Majors, obviously, received SEC honors. When you walk on the road and you do that and you kind of dominate in that fashion, one of the instances I wanted to bring up was Jaden Blue goes down, and what did Sarkisian do that next drive? Well, he said, hey, Trey Wisner, hey, Jarrett Gibson, we're going to run the ball 6 straight times for 40 yards and a touchdown because we rely on this offensive line. When you look at big games down the road on this Texas schedule, how important is it to have an offensive line that can travel and do this on the road, as well as, some of the guys on the opposite side of the ball in the trench play that can still carry on that physicality and make sure that, the trenches are won?
No, man, that's huge, man. It's really good. It's a good place to be when you can plug and play. We can just plug any running back in there and they can just all play, and that's the statement that Coach Sark had. He 1, 2 go down and count. You just plug and play. 1 went down in the game, plug and play. I think that Blue should, warm up with the team and maybe take a couple snaps and not go play this next game, next 2 games actually. and just get better, because we can plug and play any running back there, because this offensive line is so together, man. They're talking pre-snaps. They know what they're doing out there. They know the plays. I didn't see any, who has who and passing off you passing a guy off and the other guy didn't pick him up. So they're really playing cohesive offensive line, man. But it's super important for the offensive football to me, man. You little guys, y'all can go and run down the field and catch everything and bat balls down. But football is still big man, hand-to-hand combat. That's all it is. And if your front ain't good, you ain't good. You know what I'm saying? And that's on the defense and the offense. So, and I told y'all, I'm rambling, but I told y'all earlier on this thing that when I went out to practice and I saw the O-line and the D-line bickering with each other and fighting with each other, I knew we were going to have a good team then, because it's good on good, making each other better. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, you're right about
Good
that.
stuff.
No, I like that. And it's to your point about this, I know we're going to keep it Texas, but Colorado is a great example of that. That if your trenches ain't good, your skill positions, they don't matter as much. Travis Hunter may be the best skill. He is the best skill position guy in the country, potentially on both sides of the ball. They got NFL players and skill position on offense. The trenches, though, that's what they hurt. That's why you can. That's why everybody knows they can beat Colorado. It's like, nah, we'll just beat them in the trenches. Oh, 4 quarters.
Yep.
You can't stand up. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Let me get your thoughts about Gunnar Helm. I mean, how much joy did it bring you to watch a guy like Gunnar Helm, who's put the work in all these years, been unselfish, kind of just a great overall teammate, have the game of his life? Did you ever have a teammate like that have the game of their life in the biggest game of their tenure? Like, I don't even remember anybody who had a game like that where they had the best game they ever had, a career game in like the biggest game of the year, and nobody saw it coming. And they had never shown, and I'm gonna say never shown that they could do that. He showed he was capable of it, but they had never shown they were gonna be the featured like person within that offense. Like they were gonna run the offense through him. If there was a surprise out there, the biggest surprise of the game offensively, it had to be Gunnar Helm. Had to be.
Yeah, it was very surprising, but great, man. I mean, he put in a lot of work, man, and he stepped up. That first touch, he got the first touchdown, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And I was like, man, if we're using all these weapons and he's the one to get that touchdown, man, it's gonna be a great day. And I started smiling the rest of the day, man. He's a workhorse, putting in the work. He's a little David Thomas, man, a young David Thomas, I guess.
Whoa, that's wild. You said that. You know what's crazy? You said that because we did the post game with Tony Hills, and he said the same thing.
Yeah, man.
He said the same thing. That's wild.
Yeah. And so thinking about David Thomas, how he just put in the work. He walked in the locker room. I mean, he just looked like a regular football player, but he put those pads on, and he was a beast out there at that position, man. And played a long time in the NFL, man. Played on Sundays.
Yeah.
Good, man. I wasn't expecting. Again, he's gotten loose, and I think a lot of that is being, that underneath guy for all that speed. I thought Jerry Hamilton brought up a great point right after the game. When you have to deal with a Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, a Ryan Wingo, Silas Bolden, Jonte Cook, and DeAndre Moore going vertically down the field, what becomes open? Well, it's those linebackers being stretched into their deep zone. It's your check downs. It's your sideline routes. I mean, I thought Quinn found Helm about 3 or 4 times, specifically on just like those little sit patterns right by the sideline, in which he was like, hey, if you need me, I'm here. And guess what? He did need him, and he was there and had a big day as a result of that. When it comes to, also contributing in the trench play at the tight end spot, this year specifically, I think that there's been an increased improvement in that realm as well. Of course, I thought Juan Davis has been a nice addition. Amari Niblack is getting to that. But Gunnar Helm, to me, it's crazy to say after what we saw the last 2 years with Jatavian Sanders, but that tight end spot hasn't dropped off at all.
No. And the tight end spot hadn't dropped off, and I don't think these receiver spots have dropped off either. With Bond and the kid from Houston, golly, I keep forgetting.
Golden.
Yeah, Golden. Those guys came in and got plugged right in and playing very well, man. And we're spreading the ball around There's no one superstar on this team right now on this offense. We're spreading it around, and if we need to be, if we need someone later in the season that needs to be our number one guy, we can do that. But right now, we're spreading it around. So all these defenses need to prepare for everybody, not just one guy.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of which, Xavier Worthy, we're kind of missing him a little bit after what he did. We don't have anybody who could do what he was doing Sunday. I mean, we got a lot of guys that can do a lot of things. We don't quite have an X on this team, but it doesn't matter. I do need to say this about Gunnar Helm, though. I called him last year at the end of the season. I called him serviceable. I'll never forget it. I said he's a serviceable tight end. Nothing about him stands out to me. He doesn't scream potential, whatever. But my apologies to Gunnar Helms, because that dude is a playing jack. You can't, just like, you've been told your whole life as a player, and coaches, we tell, we can give you the best equipment. We can give you the best offense, the best training, the best whatever, but we can't give you heart. You have to supply the heart, and that dude's got some heart, man, and he's got some athletic ability that I didn't know he had it in him. It's not like, you just turn on and catch a ball. You got to get open, and obviously he does a great job on the running, with his run blocking as well. So big apology from me from several months ago calling him serviceable. There's probably not a team in the country that wouldn't take him on their team and put him on the field immediately.
No, to your point, Coach, I said, and you might remember this after I went to practice, because I remember I said I'm not sure about the tight end position, if it was going to be a strength for Texas. And I remember coming back at the own practice saying, nah, it's not going to be a weakness. Like the tight ends can play. And I remember it was because I saw Gunnar Helm make a play in 101. CJ, you were there too. So I make a play in 101. I was like, he actually was beating man-to-man coverage. He was beating one-on-ones against the DBs. And I thought, if he could do that, then maybe in the games he could do it too. So I was on the same boat, Coach. I disrespected the man as well, said he couldn't beat one-on-ones. I said, I'm not sure he can win a one-on-one every time. Made me look like a fool. What's that Shaq meme out there, CJ, where I underestimated your skill set? You know what I'm talking about? That's what I feel right now about Gunnar Helm. Like, sorry, dog, I underestimated your skills. You know what I mean? I think we all were like that about Gunnar Helm. So to your point, Coach, you ain't alone there.
Stevie, I got one more question for you on the edges, and we're getting some questions here. Sark spoke about it today in the press conference as well. There it is. Yeah, I'm not familiar with your game, Rod.
There you go. Yeah, I wasn't. Hey, sorry, Gunnar Helm. We was not familiar with your game, though. I will apologize for that. We all, Coach too. We apologize, bro. It's our fault.
On the edges, I know that this was a topic of conversation after the game. We heard it from Sark in the press conference today. Mm-hmm. Through 2 games, it's just one sack for the Longhorns' entire defense, right? It was Colin Simmons who got home, but I thought Sarkisian laid out a good example of the impact that rush is still creating for opposing quarterbacks. And, the interception that Andrew Makuba had, where it was tipped up in the air by Manny Muhammad, it was forced out quickly because of Ethan Burke. When those guys still aren't getting home, and they will eventually, right? There's just too much talent for them not to at some point. What kind of impact have you seen so far through 2 weeks from a Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, Barron Sorrell in that group as well? Stat sheet, not too pretty yet, but the impact is still there.
It's going to get there, man. I thought about that as well. I didn't hear what Sark said, but they're playing gap integrity football, right? So when you do the pass rushing, you got to stay in your gap right now with these type of teams. So trying to do too much on the line and things like that, you can get out of whack and things. So I think they're doing a great job. Holding what do we hold Colorado to 80-something yards on the ground or something like that. And then this week, low running as well. So they're doing okay. They will eventually, you're right, they will eventually get there. It's gap integrity, man. You got to stay in your gaps and rush the right way because, I played with some guys that were rush any kind of way that was out of control, just to get the sack,
I won't say who it is. I remember them dudes.
Exactly.
We know who it is, Stevie Lee. We know who it is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly know who it is. But CJ, I wanted to ask, If y'all are not following CJ on Instagram, man, his story about trying to get to Ann Arbor was hilarious to me, bro. Dude, how long have you been in Texas, man?
I've lived in Texas my whole life. Never flown out of Houston.
You didn't know there was 2 airports in Houston?
Hobby. I saw the H in the name. I was like, we're going to Hobby. That's where I'm headed. Sure enough, that's not what that H meant.
Dude, you had me cracking up, man. That was funny.
Man. It was great.
Hey,
I was just glad I made it. That's why
I got one for you. I didn't carry through with it, but when Jordan was playing for the Bengals, they were playing the Colts. And so I reserved a flight to Baltimore.
The Baltimore Colts, huh?
Baltimore Colts. Yeah, we're going to go watch Johnny Unitas play.
No.
Yeah. Thankfully, I caught it and got it changed to Indianapolis. But I was going to Baltimore, but I was going to show up and say, "Hey, where's all the Colts fans?"
Oh man! Hey, you know what? You're showing your age whenever you do that, man.
I know, Johnny.
When were they there? That was back in
1980. That's bad. I know it's bad. 25 years after they, 30 years after they leave, I'm still flying into Baltimore.
Oh man, we ain't gonna top that, Coach. We ain't gonna top that today. We should.
No, thankfully, I didn't get on the plane.
Oh man, that's good. See, CJ, you don't feel bad. That's our Mama Vogel. Mama Vogel's in the chat. She's that's all right. Hey, that's okay. She's still proud of you. She's still proud of you, CJ. All right, Stevie Lee, man. Thank you for the time.
Maybe Mama Vogel could take you to the airport next week.
Mama does know best.
I know I'd get there. And I'd go to the right one if that was the case.
Hey, Stevie, man, thank you for the time. We won't take up too much of it because we know you got other responsibilities. You got kids, family, and adulting to do. Tell your lovely wife that we all said hi, and thank you for the time, brother. We love you.
Thank you guys, man. Y'all have fun. It was always fun time with you guys.
All right, thank you, brother. That's lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee. Say, CJ, your planes, trains, and automobile story, man. I'm telling you, keep it going because you might end up on a different career track than all of us. You might end up being like an influencer, reality TV star.
I won't be a travel influencer. I'll tell you that. It'll be the worst reviews, the worst destinations. You won't get any kind of content from me about that.
Oh man, that was great. Good stuff, guys. Thank you to Hardgrove Roofing, by the way, for sponsoring our segment with Stevie Lee. Hardgrove Roofing has offices all over Louisiana, Arkansas, and of course Texas, including Austin. Hardgrove Roofing will take care of all of your roofing needs. Plus, they're Longhorn friendly with partners like Lifetime Longhorn, Bert Arbor, and Lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee, who just joined us. They're the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. Call them today for a free roof inspection at Hardgrove Roofing. Know who's on your roof. 512-645-3202. Hardgroveroofing.com. Thank you very much, Matthew, for putting that up again. Thank you to Stevie Lee for joining us. All right, we'll get to some of the questions here. Kelly Hill says, "Hey, you guys go easy on CJ. We all make mistakes." No, trust me, I won't reveal my boneheaded mistakes because I've had plenty of them and made tons of them, and I still do make them. Actually, that's why I won't reveal it because some of mine are just weeks ago that I've made, and my wife calls me out all the time. So I'm saying at least he didn't say the Brooklyn Dodgers. I'm glad Coach still reveals that. Hey, man, it happens to the best of us, even the wisest of us. All right, here's a couple of super chats. Jay Wood 888. Thank you very much, 888 Jay Wood. Appreciate you. Rod B, Michigan couldn't handle the Steve run. 4 straight scores. Fans left at halftime. It was a great time at the Little House. Yeah, some people call it the Woodshed. Thank you, Jay Wood, for the super chat. Yeah, guys, that Sark run. This is the thing about the Sark run now that makes it different. The Sark run has always been a part of the Sark blueprint, his DNA. It's part of his brilliance as a play caller. I think he just gets in these grooves, man. He just gets in these grooves as a play caller. You'll see him, he starts squatting and everything. He's got his body language. You know, like, oh, Sark is cooking. He's got his body language. You can tell, like, oh, Sark is cooking. He's in his bag a little bit. So the groove, I think that's coming automatically. You're going to get the run. We saw it in 2021 when he first came. The problem was they didn't have the team. They didn't have the infrastructure to keep the leads when they got them. They didn't have the infrastructure to do that. And also they didn't have the culture to do it. They were not a 4-quarter team, and they were not a 4th quarter team. And over the years, Sark has built this team into being a 4-quarter team and then and last year was a fourth quarter team. He didn't go win the game in the fourth quarter and be clutch when they needed to. And now I think you got a team that is not only you're going to have the run from Sark, but now it's complementary football, guys, that's fueling the run. It ain't just offense like kind of how it used to be. It's now you're getting the takeaways, right? You get that, and you get an interception by Makuba, or you get a turnover or a takeaway. You get special teams to make a great play or a 3 and out, and they contribute to the Sark run. It happened in this game. I think it was like the last 8. I want to say it was last 8 minutes of the last 8 minutes of the first half, that second quarter there, and then Texas. I think they had like 3 back-to-back scores. Takeaways, or at least one takeaway on defense, and then the game was out of hand by halftime. And the way the defense is structured, Coach, now they can make. Now last year when they got up big, 20 points, 3 touchdowns, they couldn't make a team pay for being one-dimensional. They couldn't make you pay for it. Matter of fact, you would hurt Texas when you became one-dimensional because they didn't have the pass defense. But now when they get up 2 touchdowns in a game, or they get up multiple scores in a game, Coach, now they make you pay with the versatility, the NASCAR package. Colin freaking Simmons out there is a monster. Now, Coach, this is what Coach Sark envisioned. The run as a part of his DNA, but now the ability to make you pay for getting down that deficit to Texas.
Hey, does Colin Simmons not just bring you so much hope for this defense? I mean, that dude,
quick.
Golly, he was amazing. And then, of course, we already know, Makuba and Jahdae Barron were, golly, they were lights out. I mean, Malik Muhammad, I mean, those guys played well. But that dude right there, Colin Simmons, he's going to be a household name this time, maybe even this time next year.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take too long, Coach. I mean, you look right there at the win rate, and that's for a guy playing a team that's known for its trench play and its physicality. To do that on the road in his second career game, you're going to see those snap counts rise and rise and rise. You know, I posted this after the game. Anthony Hill's snaps from week 1 and week 2 a year ago to where they were later on in the year. I know they're different positions and there were different depth moments at the time, right? But I think you're going to start seeing him really start to carve out himself a nice niche. You know, every third down should feature a Colin Simmons at some point. And I think that's exactly what you will see later on this year is there won't be a passing situation that doesn't have 11 and 8 on the field. I think that's just going to be the case. And, you know, it's interesting still. You'll still see him every now and then drop back into coverage. We saw it against Michigan. And, you know, even in these big games, I don't think the staff necessarily wants to throw everything out there for Colin just yet. You know, there's still moments where, you know, as he gets his feet more and more wet against the UTSA and the ULM over the next 2 weeks, then you'll start to see that package against Oklahoma and Georgia and Texas A&M and Kentucky. That's when you'll really see 11 pin his ears back and say, yeah, okay, I'm ready to make an impact here.
That dude was coming so fast around the edge after he beat the tackle. He almost had to slow down to try to track the quarterback. I mean, it was just amazing. I mean, when he pins his ears back and he decides to go around a tackle, there's nothing they can do about it. And then he would try to cut it back inside, and the quarterback's like, "Nah, I'm out of here, man."
Yeah.
I mean, he had to kind of slow down a little bit to redirect to the quarterback because he had so much speed and power moving into the pocket.
Yeah, Coach, could you imagine game planning? And Alex January saw 3 snaps as well. I know we're not we didn't see as many, you know, flashy plays from him, obviously in limited action, but to be played 3 snaps in week 2 as a college athlete already. Could you imagine having a game plan against a guy like Colin Simmons and Alex January on the same high school defensive line? Wow, that's not fair.
That's not fair.
Like, especially once the season gets going a little bit, and right now he doesn't need another move. He can beat some of the nation's best tackles just going around him. But just wait until he gets that move where he spins inside. Now how are they going? I mean, all they can do now is just say, okay, I'm going to run him around quarterback. You got to step up and hope you can get rid of the ball. But once he develops some moves and starts refining his game, it's unbelievable the potential he has.
Yeah, to your point, Coach, I agree. He has elite speed rush, elite BGO, ball get off, And I feel like that NASCAR package features him basically with the NASCAR dime they use when they put 3 edges out there. I feel like they're basically kind of featuring his BGO ability and trying to engineer one-on-ones for him. And when he got that one-on-one against that Michigan right tackle, that was, like I said, if he was draft eligible anytime soon, it'd be on this draft highlight reel. But I'm with you, Coach. I by the way, Trey Moore has his counter, his changeup is his spin move. So I bet they're trading secrets. And he probably can teach him a little something about that because he's a speed rusher, and his counter is his spin move.
Rod, did you see the pass rush rep from Trey Moore where I think he just long armed the right tackle and put him right on his backside?
Yeah, it was freakish.
I mean, like again, this whole offseason we've talked about his speed, his quickness, his ability to beat tackles with that speed. And I mentioned in the week leading up that, hey, that right tackle, you might be able to have some success there. Where did Colin Simmons have his success? Off the right tackle. That rep alone from Trey Moore, my goodness, that shows you the strength that he has, even in a size in that body that's not necessarily the flashiest or the biggest that you look at off the bus and say, oh, okay, that's a ball player. Yeah. But man, when you can add that speed and power to one another, that's just those sack numbers will come. They absolutely will come.
Yeah, I think they will come. I know people are concerned that we have one sack, I believe, through the first 2 games. It may not be a record-breaking unit or a record-breaking team when it comes to sack numbers, but I think the pressure could end up benefiting you in other ways. I think it's helping with turnovers in the secondary. I think secondaries getting their hands on more football because these quarterbacks are under duress throwing.
You got 4 picks already, Rod. You love that.
Like 4 different players too.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it'd be different with just one guy. Like, no, man, it's 4 different players. DBs are having a hell of a start to the season. And one thing before we finish up the Colin Simmons conversation, because I think you guys are right. I love that now they nobody is specialized anymore, guys. Like I've seen Colin Simmons dropping back as a Sam backer. Same thing with Trey Moore, in addition to being some of your elite pass rushers on the team. All the D linemen in this game has showed that they can play multiple fronts. You see Ethan Burke and Baron Sorrell playing multiple shades up front. The interior D tackles, we talked about them playing a 3D tackle package with Lole and Brodden and Collins. So those guys can play multiple shades up front. Anthony Hill can play on the edge, but also play off-ball linebacker for you. We talked about the secondary with Janae Barron and Jelani McDonald and Makuba, all these guys being cross-trained to play different positions. I think that is something that they've been striving for, and it's been something that the coaches have been emphasizing and prioritizing, not only in development, but also now in recruiting as well and in scheme. And that's why, Coach, I saw a 3-3-5, I saw a 4-2-5, I saw a 4-3, I saw a 3-4, I saw a penny front, I saw a tight front, or they call it bear back in the day. It seems like they're throwing a lot of different. I haven't seen a defense that's versatile in a long time. And the Coach, that's the reason that they can take away a team's strength week to week. Because last year, and even, you couldn't take away a team's strength week to week. You took away the run because that's what you were elite at. But now, 1 week you take away a power running game from Michigan. Week before that, you take away a top 20 passing team's ability to throw the football, and they only throw for 74 yards and rush for more yards than that. I think the identity of this defense is that they can take away your identity on offense, Coach.
Yeah, so far we've been able to do that.
Yeah.
You're
right. So far, you're right. But I don't know, honestly. Yeah, we'll see, because I think that's going to be a theme, and we'll see going forward. You're right about that, Coach. It's only a small sample size. All right, let's thank another one of our sponsors before we get going. Oh, somebody sent me this about Colin Simmons, because we're talking about Colin Simmons, and we're live, so thank you, guys. We'll get some of your questions here. They said Colin Simmons right now leads all SEC true freshmen in pressures. He's got a overall an 85 defensive grade. That's second among SEC true freshman. If you go look at the highest graded defensive players by Pro Football Focus through 2 weeks, Janae Barron's number 1, Colin Simmons is number 2. Then Vernon Broughton, then Derek Williams, Malik Muhammad, and Michael Taft.
Hey, Saturday was the best Vernon Broughton's played as a Texas Longhorn.
Yeah, you said Stevie Lee brought him up too. Stevie Lee said he's playing really well. And you know what? I was surprised. It's good to your point, CJ. The NASCAR package. I thought the featured interior pass rusher would be Alfred Collins.
I
It's Vernon Broughton.
agree. He's been very disruptive. It's interesting with Broughton, with his build, Rod. He's not that traditional anchor over the ball. He plays. I kind of want to call it very fluid, like fluidity. He's very liquid. His body is able to kind of morph and squeeze between so many different blocks and gaps that it's very intriguing and really interesting to watch him pass rush, because you don't expect a guy of 305 plus pounds or whatever he is to squeeze almost between gaps the way that he does. But that's exactly how he's so disruptive. And back-to-back games now, he's got a pass deflection at the line of scrimmage. So, he's got his eyes up. He's trying to make plays after the quarterback. And that's a big reason why he's in that package. He's been very good.
They describe it with running backs all the time, coaches. He can get skinny and kind of slip through the hole.
That's it.
You can describe it as a defensive tackle too. Good point. That he kind of gets skinny. It's like, how does he get skinny? Like, I don't know. He's huge. But
Rod, have you seen those videos, Coach? I know you've seen these videos of like cats squeezing into like vases and like little cups and boxes, and like the cat's huge, right? And then you see like the vase is like that big, and you're sitting there, it's like, all right, how's it do that? And then you watch him get in there. It's like that's how Vernon Broughton pass rushes. It's crazy, but it's very effective. And for his athleticism, it's Texas needs it.
I like that. It's a good visual. And hey, Matthew, bring that.
Thank you, Matthew.
Well done, Matthew. Well done. Yes, I've also seen an octopus do the same thing. I think it's some YouTube video. But bring up that quote you just had about Vernon Broughton, because you're right. Vernon Broughton did say in the preseason, and Rick, good point here, that he was getting coached up on some of the finer kind of technicalities of the position and the fundamentals of the position. And he basically implied that there's a different style coach between Bo Davis and Kenny Baker, and that basically Kenny Baker's style is helping him a little bit more in his development. So that's good. That's a hell of a story. I'm with you. Vernon Broughton has shown a lot of promise so far. All right, let's thank one of our sponsors, Flat Creek, before we move on here. Flat Creek Estate Winery, folks, we are really happy to have them as a part of the On Texas Football family. Did you know the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to Austin? That's right. Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local spec, so give it a try. It's also available at Central Market. I know that because my wife does some shopping there, and she sees it when she does shopping, and usually ends up buying a couple of bottles of Super Texan. It's her favorite wine. It'll be your favorite too once you try it. Of course, Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a date with your significant other, or perfect for a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's flatcreekestate.com. Go check it out for yourself. They have a great selection of wines. The Pinot Grigio is really good. The Rosé actually is fantastic. And the Super Texan, of course, it is an award-winning member of that Flat Creek family. So we appreciate them being a part of our family. That's flatcreekestate.com. All right, let's get back to the questions here. Guys, how about this one from Patrick? Says, is Hayden Conner, Jake Majors, and David Bender playing their way into NFL draft picks? Jake Majors made a lot of money on Saturday.
He absolutely did.
He made a lot of money.
The other two, I thought Hayden Conner played very well as well. You saw him. He was one of 5 Texas Longhorns that played every snap, all of the 71 offensive snaps. It was Banks, Conner, Majors, and then Cam Williams, because you saw Cole Hudson get in there at right guard at times. Quinn obviously played every snap as well. But Hayden Conner and Jake Majors looked tremendous against that test. And I know the yards per carry between the tackles, not going to jump off the page, but for what they were expecting coming into this game against Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant and, Barham and Stewart, I mean, that's a really, really talented front line for the Michigan Wolverine defensive line. Also, in that same breath, you got to add Gunnar Helm in there because we've talked about him. There's 4 guys right now that are playing much better than I thought were expected so far through 2 games.
Yeah, Gunnar Helm. I'll give you these stats about Gunnar Helm. How about this one? Right now, 90% catch rate. That leads the SEC tight ends. 100 is receiving yards, leads SEC tight ends as well. Explosive plays, leads SEC tight ends in that category, and leads them in yak yards and in pass blocking grade. So, yeah, Gunnar Helm's making himself a whole lot of money because he is, and now has added to the many headaches that opposing defensive coordinators have to account for. Now you got to add Gunnar Helm to the mix. And I did say before the season, I said this Texas passing game could easily have 5 to 6 games, half the regular season games with a different leading receiver in half of your regular season games. And honestly, guys, more and more I watch this offense, I think we're going to be there. I think we're going to get to like 4 or 5 games with a different leading receiver, which is, maybe that's how Sark envisions it. But the fact that you brought this up in the in-game live watch, and it was heartbreaking, but it was hilarious. Man, DeAndre Moore can't catch a break. Like, he can't catch a break. He didn't get a target in the first game. And then in this game, the one target that he did get ended up being a penalty called back. It was a touchdown. It ended up getting called back. And that's how deep the wide receiving core is. I hate to bring it up because I know for the young man, it's got to be frustrating. But he's a starting wide receiver for Texas with 0 targets in the first 2 games. That's how deep the wide receiving core is. That's crazy.
He's going to find his one day.
Oh, Coach,
it might not be the start to the year that you would expect for a guy that's playing as often as he is, but in a weird way, that's kind of the role that he was, kind of put in to be, right? Jordan Whittington didn't have the flashy stat lines all too often in his career, but he did the dirty work. And I thought that that's exactly how he's gotten himself onto the field. And I mean, those plays will come. It's unfortunate that holding call negated the first touchdown because what a throw, what a catch, what a play it was. But his plays will come.
Hey, I want to throw something. Kind of zoom out a little bit and look at the big picture. Is it just me, or does it seem like that a lot of the college football ranked teams are struggling a little bit?
Yeah.
It just seemed like it's not the teams that were getting a lot of hype and stuff are struggling, maybe not doing quite as well, except us in Georgia. And so my question is there a chance if we played – could we play Georgia for the SEC championship, or is that different divisions?
No, you can play them.
Yeah.
You can play them
I think, Rod, you had brought, maybe CJ, one of y'all brought up the fact on an earlier show that we could potentially see Georgia 3 times.
That's right.
No, I've been predicting it, Coach. I predicted we're going to face them 5 times in the next 2 years. That's my prediction.
That's crazy. I just don't see any other team with the momentum that Georgia and Texas has right now. They seem to be separating themselves a little bit. I know that Ohio State is who they are. Alabama's who they are. Ole Miss, I'm not quite convinced. Missouri, I'm not quite convinced. Oregon is, maybe not quite what everybody thought they were. They haven't just put people away like, we thought they would. So I don't know. It's just interesting the way the season's shaping up. We only had 2 games, most of us, but it's certainly don't want to, we're not a part of the coaching staff. So we start looking ahead but I was just wondering if that the way that Texas and Georgia are separating themselves, and it's still early, but three times, it'd be
something.
That would be unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So the way it's shaping up right now, Texas and Georgia are the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country. And if they win out, there's no reason to think, that they won't
win out.
No, I'm saying until they meet up.
Yeah. Yeah. One of them ain't going to win out.
One of them's going to have to lose. But if they win up until that matchup in Austin, they'll be the one in the 2 teams. It's very likely if they stay the course even after that, there will be a path that both play in the SEC championship game as well against one another. I mean, to even fathom playing the same opponent 3 times, I know it's very rare in the NFL where division rivals already start with 2 games against one another. It's rare to see teams from the same division in, a playoff game against one another, but you're looking at what could be the top 2 teams in all of the country playing 3 times, the top 2 picks in all of the country in the NFL draft going head to head, 3 times. Yeah, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but could you imagine the storylines, just how fun that would be to cover all the way through? It would be a blast.
Man, CB points out first time number 1 versus number 2 at DKR since September 06 when number 1 Ohio State played number 2 Texas. Thank you for that, CB. Yeah, I mean, I think it was in July, maybe before that. I said Texas will play Georgia 5 times over the next 2 years. Because my prediction is they will play them in the SEC title game. They'll make twice this year. And I predict they're going to play in the playoff at one point. I don't know when. It could be this year. It could be next year. You know you're going to play them again next year in the regular season. So that'll be twice. SEC title game this year, make 3 times. SEC title game again next year. That'll make 4. And then you play them in the SEC in the college football playoff one of those years. That'll make 5. And Texas, Georgia becomes an it rivalry for the next 2 years that pretty much just it basically becomes the focal point of college football for those 2 years where everybody's playing catch up to those 2 schools. And honestly, right now,
it's what it looks like.
It's looking like it right now. So I don't know if that's good or bad for Texas to play Georgia 3 times in a season. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I think I could be right on that prediction. Coach, how about this one for you? This comes from Texas Chick 01. Says, Coach, other than glaring Notre Dame failure, how would you ensure we don't drink the Kool-Aid? Thanks.
That's a big part of it.
Okay. Did you guys see Sark's interview or Sark talking to the team after the game?
Yeah.
I mean, it was great. That's what he's talking about. This is about them staying focused, them coming back to work hard the next day. And it's part of the journey. It's not close to being over with. And he even came out and said today, CJ, something about we need more of a killer instinct or whatever. I mean, he's saying the right things. He's doing the right things. We need to go to another level with our killer instinct. 60 minutes of hell for our opponents. That's the kind of head coach you want coaching your freaking football team right there. He gets it. And he drilling that every week. It's obvious the kids are starting to believe it.
Yeah, Coach, I don't think they were very happy Michigan scored at the end of the game there. No. I know it took almost a heroic play for Davis Warren and the receiver to find the end zone in that play. But, if you would have gone on the road and not allowed a touchdown to a top 10 team for the second consecutive game, right? 2 straight games to start the year without a touchdown being allowed, now you're looking at a much different outlook for your defense entirely. And again, it was a great performance by the defense. I don't want to take anything away, but those are kind of the moments that you look at and say, yeah, for the entirety of that football game, the standard is going to be what it is. And I hate bringing that statement back up, but we heard it so often today when speaking with the players that, Texas only scored 7 points in the second half of that football game on Saturday. There's still reason for them to get back into the lab and improve. There were miscommunications by the goal line at times, on special teams. Even you had your kicker have 2 tackles. You don't want to ever have that be the case. And defensively, again, a second straight week in which you've had a late opportunity for the opposing offense to go down the field and score. They had a great interception week 1. They weren't so fortunate week 2. And I think that's where that kind of focus and attention to detail comes in to say, hey, doesn't matter what the situation is, what the score is, who's on the field. You got to play to the level of Texas football in the way that we've been coaching you up to play. And that starts immediately Monday whenever we start prepping for the next week.
Yep. No, that's that killer instinct Coach is talking about. All right, good stuff. Coach Shipley, another one from you from David Keith Williams. I love when David Keith contributes to the conversation. Says that Coach Shipley, the Texas secondary is on their way to roughly 25 regular season interceptions if they remain on the trajectory of their 2-game schedule. Yeah, I mean, they have been extremely opportunistic, Coach. 4 interceptions, 4 different players have gotten their hands on footballs in terms of interceptions. Yeah, I mean, we were wondering whether it was going to be a strength or a weakness. There's no doubt this secondary is going to be a strength. Now the question is, how good can they really be? What's the ceiling?
Well, David, I think Rod answered that question earlier in the broadcast when he mentioned the fact that now that when we take people's run game away from us, we can do something about it. And so, yes, I think that is not out of the question, because if we continue to play good run defense, then and we continue to score well offensively, people are going to have to be throwing it when they don't want to be throwing it. And so it's a very opportunistic defensive situation to be in. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I think the way our offense is playing, the way our run game is playing, I think 2 a week is certainly possible. We were plus 3 turnovers Saturday, and you're going to win games. You're going to win games with that.
You're at that fumble recovery when Loveland just dropped the ball. I think he
dropped the ball.
he just dropped the ball. That was I'm sure he's a great player too. That was just a horrible play. Getting back to the questions here. G-Town Eagle 76 says if Ewers continues to have this season, right, that he does, wins Heisman and wins national championship, does he knock off VY as the greatest QB of all time? All right. So assumption is here, G-Town Eagle, is he wins the Heisman, which he's the front runner for right now. Wins the national championship, which Texas is right now one of the favorites to win a national championship. If he does those things, does he knock off VY as the greatest quarterback of all time?
No.
I'll say this, Coach. I always said if Colt had actually won the national title, Colt would be actually considered the GOAT because Colt had accomplished more.
I know that, but you take Vince's body of work that he did, all right? A lot of it was single-handed.
I'm
not saying there weren't people blocking. I'm not saying there weren't people making great catches. It's the plays Vince made on his own that made him the GOAT. In my opinion. I mean, I would have a hard time. I would just forever be indebted, as we all will be forever indebted to Vince Young and to what he did for the university. I'm just saying the GOAT ain't going down that easy. We'll see.
This is why you won't let it happen. And Coach, you make a good point about the individual plays he made when the play breaks down. Right, it's just like, hey, VY played hero ball, and he was the best hero ball quarterback that you could get. It's like, no, I'll put the damn game in mind. I'll put the cape on. Nobody put the cape on better than Vince Young. He kept the tape in his back pocket, he put it on, and then come save the day. So I agree with you with. And we need to see more of those moments from Quinn before he can overtake the GOAT. But it was also, and this is why Quinn, even if he does accomplish those things, he's not going to overtake VY, even though if he wins the Heisman, he'd have accomplished more. The swagger of VY and the storyline, the narrative, it's a better story. That's
the whole offense being designed for one guy and his strengths was ingenious. What Greg Davis did with him, which was totally against what Greg Davis thought as a play caller prior to Vince Young arriving on campus. I say it's going to take something pretty incredible. And Quinn is being incredible, but man, when VY had it, you were never out of the game, ever.
Look at this. You can see me. I will bring up Rod's Cam Newton VY take. Listen, that is a well-researched take that honestly has a lot of promise. For those who don't know, UT Boy says Vincent Paul is the best I've ever seen. Yeah, VY's story captivated the Longhorn Nation too. It's a better story than Quinn's story. It just is going up against USC. What USC was building, that was a dynasty. You took down a dynasty. You know what I mean? In USC.
How long had it been since we'd been on the national scene?
Yes, agreed.
Before, we were on a long dry spell when VY came in.
Agreed.
I mean, a lot of good recruits, obviously a great defense. But what VY did was
No, I'm with you.
He changed it. He changed an entire program and the trajectory of the program.
Well, and VY was one of the catalysts for the evolution of the game of football, the college game in general, with, the zone read. And remember, the NFL, this is my thing about VY, and I told VY this to his face. He was born a little too early, dog. You're a little too early. You went into the league around, 06, 07? Cam Newton came around 2010, RG3 around 2012, 11, around that time. And that's when the NFL decided, you know what, let's quit obsessing about pro style offenses and let's use some of these college brands and these college offenses at the NFL level. And actually, shout out to my man Cal Shanahan and Shano. He was one of the first because he literally went down to Art Browse and they took the Baylor playbook. It wasn't a physical one, but they went to Art Browse and said, hey man, we're going to draft this guy. We need to know how to use him. We need all your tricks of the trade. And they were one of the first teams to start throwing out a lot of college concepts at the NFL level. And now we are. So if VY had been like 4 or 5 years later, man, think about what he'd done in the league with a team that wanted and knew how to weaponize him. Oh, been crazy. All right, there you go. Sorry. So, yes, no, VY will never be overtaken as the coach. What Coach will try to know. Never happened because VY's story is better. Someone says, Ewers will overtake VY if we win it all and grabs the mic and says, we are back now. Yeah, it did. Drops the mic. Yeah. Now we back. Boom. Yeah. They were like, oh, Quinn is the GOAT.
Hey, we don't even have to bring that up anymore. They've established themselves as back.
I know, but then it'd be kind of it's kind of an underhanded shot at Sam too, so he probably shouldn't do it because Sam, we're back, is like mocked and ridiculed. But Sam believed it, and you know what? Sam was right. For Sam, it meant they were back. The problem was the rest of the team, they weren't always on board. We found it out from the eyes of Texas. Sam was down. Sam was all in, but not everybody else was all in. All right, let's get some more questions here, and then we'll get close to we're close to the end of it here, guys. Thank you, G-Town Eagle. That was an interesting conversation. And CB, don't be bringing up my Cam Newton VY take. They don't know nothing about that on Texas. Haim Schwartz says, "Hey Rod, I noticed a lot during this game. We used 3 safeties on the field. Makuba interception, had McDonald blitzing, and Williams at field. Is this something Johnny Nansen brought with him along with the 3D tackle sets?" Haim, I'm not sure. Because my theory, somebody needs to ask Sark about it, because my theory is that Sark had to study and go down the rabbit hole in an in-depth look at an analysis of how to pick apart and how to counter the 3 high safety defense, because he saw it so much in the Big 12. It was everywhere. He saw it basically like half the damn schedule last year. He kept talking about teams that threw a different look at them that they didn't anticipate or expect, because they didn't see it on film. That's because teams were using the 3 high safety against Texas. And Sark, to his credit, found a really, I think, convenient antidote that was compatible with his offense as to how to overcome the 3 high safety. And last year, it was not an issue for him. Teams like Oklahoma State and teams like, K-State and TCU and Iowa State, Texas were able to overcome those teams, and they majored in the 3 high safety defense. So my theory is that, yes, Johnny Nansen's influence is the reason they're running the 3 high safety, because they ran it with this NASCAR dime versus Colorado State. They ran the inverted Tampa 2 as well. Yeah. And my theory is that Sark knows the defense so well now that he's fine with the defense using it, because he studied it. In order to come up with the antidote for it, he had to reverse engineer the damn thing. And so now he knows it as well as anybody. He's fine with them using it because they have the versatility, number one, to use it. And I think now I think he's fine with them having the players that can execute it, but also because now they know how to run it. And so I think, yes, Johnny Nansen's a part of it, but I think this is also Sark saying, if you can't beat them, join them. Everybody's countering me with this 3 high safety thing that's working really well against my really prolific offense. Why the hell wouldn't I use it against some other prolific offenses? So I think it's a little bit of both.
Good point.
All right. CJ, Champ Bailey, I like that. He wants to know, what's the word on Michael Terry?
Yeah. I think it's kind of it was the 3-team race. I think it's more 2 teams kind of separating themselves. Also, before we get to this, Jerry Hamilton's put up some great notes on ontexasfootball.com. Be sure to go check that. A big-time visitor going to be on campus for the first SEC game in the 2025 class. So go give that a look. Jerry's got a lot of great nuggets up today from his travels throughout the Southeast. So wanted to give that a quick word. I think Texas fans will like that, of course, following the flip of Myron Charles. That's got it kind of been swept under the rug. But on Michael Terry, I'm hoping to go see him later this week in action, of course. But listen, it was Texas, Oregon, Nebraska. And right now I think that Nebraska and Texas have kind of separated themselves as the 2 teams to beat here. I think just having that relationship with Matt Rule has really made things interesting there. And, of course, you look at those 2 offenses, Rod and Coach, I don't know if it's been a surprise to anybody, but Oregon's not been clicking the way that you would expect them to. That team's not been looking good. I had them outside of my top 10 earlier today at number 11. You play a close game to, was it Nevada or Idaho week 1, and then you come out and you need a last minute field goal to beat Boise State. That's not a top 10 team in my eyes right now. They could obviously get that together. There's a lot of talent on that team, but Nebraska, hey, I'll tell you what, Dylan Raiola, legit. He's living up to the hype of that 5-star number 1 overall quarterback in his class to be a true freshman right now. I know Colorado, you say what you want about the defense and the leadership and yada, yada. Listen, that was a big test. That's a big test regardless. That's a lot of talented players on that team, and he looked really good. So I think Texas is right there with Nebraska. They're pitching him, coming in, being a big piece of that offense, whether it be at running back, receiver, tight end, anywhere they can to get him the football, and playing with Raiola. Texas doing very much the same to say, hey, come play with Arch Manning, be closer to home. Proximity is going to play a factor here at the end of the day, and I think that's one of the things that leads me to think that Texas is still in that driver's seat at the moment. Very narrow margins, but we'll see a decision coming, by the end of the month or creeping into October in my eyes.
Good stuff there, CJ. A couple of super chats before we get to the end of the live stream here. UT Boy, thank you, UT Boy. Good to see you in the super chat. How about this? If we keep covering these spreads, I might have to look into a Shipley Ranch. Yeah, baby. Hey, good teams win, great teams cover. Damn right.
Great teams cover.
That's right. And winners buy ranches.
Yeah, right. You're right. I like that. And winners buy, Coach, put that on the hat. Winners buy ranches, damn it. That's how you do it.
Coach, I envision it now. Winners buy ranches right over the top.
There you go. ShipleyRanches.com. Look at that.
That's another hot seller, Coach.
8.495, man. That's chump change. Look at that.
Winners buy ranches.
We got some beautiful properties, man. You want to look at ShipleyRanches.com. Jackson does all of our advertising, and he does our camera work and all the stuff. You go out with the drone and all that. He's incredible. But we've got some really nice properties. There's no doubt. I don't know if you're going to make it on Benton, but if you can, we'll love to show you a ranch.
Hey, depends on how much you
and
bet.
Give you a hat. Just come look
at
at a ranch. We'll give you a hat just for looking.
I love it, man. Hey, good stuff there. ShipleyRanches.com. And winners buy ranches. I love it. All right. How about this one? Rod B, Coach CJ. Georgia plays at Bama, at Texas, at Ole Miss, and Tennessee. This is the hardest schedule of the Kirby era. They will be tested more than UT. You're right. When they face at least I don't mean how many of those teams they play before they play Texas, though. On most of those, a little after they play Texas, CJ, on the schedule. But either way, by the time they play the second time in the SEC title game, Georgia will have been really tested by then. I'll give you that. There you go. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, yeah, they play Bama. Yeah, okay. So
Bama. Okay, so they play Bama.
Yeah, they play Bama. They got one big one before they play Texas.
Auburn lost to Cal this past weekend.
They did. And Kentucky did not look good either.
Kentucky looked horrible. That 5-star quarterback situation that they thought they might have stumbled into this past offseason, that was a disaster against South Carolina. South Carolina, impressive. I think Lenore Sellers is a really good player. But you start looking at what Texas has later on in their schedule, right? Oklahoma didn't look good. Texas A&M hasn't looked good. Kentucky looked really bad. Arkansas, maybe the sneakiest game now that you start looking at it now. That might be the sneakiest game with that revamped offense and that explosivity from the playmaking spot there.
No, good point. That's a good point about
it's not a Tennessee, Missouri, or Ole Miss. I'll tell you that. And I'll tell you, Tennessee might be this. I don't want to call them sneaky because they're top 10, but they got themselves a dude at quarterback.
Miracle Martinez. I love that name. It's fantastic. Miracle Martinez. Peter Alexander Gardier. Peter the Great doesn't get the recognition he deserves. Only QB of the Texas OU rivalry to win 4 straight games in the Red River rivalry. Hey, we call him Peter the Great. He's from H-Town, if I'm not mistaken, right? Didn't he? I mean, the school that he went to school with, Robert E. Lee. They don't even play football anymore, if I'm not mistaken. So Peter the Great. I respect Peter the Great. Anytime a name comes up with me, I always ask, where's Peter the Great? Where does he live? Does he get free drinks anytime he goes out from Longhorn fans? He should be eating and drinking for free everywhere he goes because he's undefeated versus Oklahoma. Another hit, Anish Singh says, would getting Hilson deter our other 2 DNs? That was for you, CJ, I bet.
No, I don't think so. Lance Jackson, big fan of Texas. Smith Orogbo picked Texas over Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Texas Tech. Listen, Texas won't pass up a Javion Hilson. Should he look at Texas and say, that's a place I want to go play, they won't pass him up. That foothold in Florida is something that they're going to need to have in the SEC. And if you have an elite edge rusher like Hilson saying, yeah, I'm going to want to come play for Texas, you don't pass that up. That just adds to that room, that adds to that competition, that adds to pushing Colin Simmons and Zena Umeozulu to reach levels that they need to reach if Texas wants to win and compete for national championships. It's a great question, though, because all three of those guys are incredible.
Tyler says, Tyler Large, Rod, what game will solidify that this secondary is going to be much improved from last year? They don't play a lot of heavy pass teams. Mississippi State's going to run version of the air raid. Georgia, I mean, they can throw it a little bit. They got the best quarterback, arguably, in college football. Arguably is what I said. And Carson Beck. But they don't play a lot of pass-happy teams, guys. This is not the Big 12. They don't play teams that are going to be pass-first teams. Mississippi State's probably, and I think Georgia. Oklahoma's got a really good wide receiving core, but I don't know if they got the quarterback in the O-line to execute the passing game, guys.
Yeah. That looks bad against Houston. Oof.
It did not look good. It did not look good at all. Also, Tyler wants to know our true thoughts on Oklahoma. I think we just gave them to you. Not a good look versus Oklahoma. They and their own coach said they deserve to lose. Remember, Brent Venables said after the game they deserve to lose that game. He said it twice, but he really meant it.
You know what's funny, Rod? And I'm going on a tangent here, but Oklahoma fans were pretty happy Jeff Lebby took that Mississippi State job, right? You know, there are times where they looked at their offense as inconsistent. You know, you saw the big plays and then 3 and outs, and you're sitting there, and Oklahoma fans are sitting there. Yeah, you know, we'll get someone with consistency that knows how to run the football and play for time of possession. Well, they got the same dude. They got the same exact style of football being played with Seth Luttrell, and now all of a sudden it's get Luttrell out of here. Oh man, you know what? I was seeing the most on timelines from OU fans. Man, I miss Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
No
hey,
duh.
Seth Luttrell and some of those guys from the air raid offense, they're like the NFL used to just recycle head coaches. Mm-hmm. Didn't matter if you were good, you just kept getting jobs. You just kept getting jobs. I mean, it's just, and that's the way those air raid guys are. Sooner or later, that's going to burn out. I mean, you know, there's only so many jobs Seth Luttrell's going to get from his air raid background with Mike Leach. And he may be at the end of his rope if he can't get Oklahoma's offense turned around.
Good stuff there, Coach. All right, before we get out of here, let me thank our final sponsor. Hey, Texas football fans, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. That's right. SouthPointDodge.com is where you need to go to check out their fantastic inventory. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is the one-stop shop. So go over to South Point Dodge right now. You can go check it out in person for yourself off of I-35 in South Austin. And right now is a great time for you to save big. They have a great deal happening right now. They have a ton of Ram 2500, 50 as a matter of fact, 2500s, all marked down with huge savings right now at South Point Dodge. So go check it out by yourself. They're Austin's automotive everything, your one-stop shop for all things automotive. Go check them out, southpointdodge.com. I'm really thankful and happy they're part of the On Texas football family and sponsoring the winning drive. All right. Thank all you guys for the super chats. Really appreciate all the questions and the participation. Thank you, Coach, for your wisdom and knowledge. Always grateful for it. CJ, thank you for all your hard work and all the great nuggets. Matthew, behind the scenes, thank you, Matthew. Can't say enough about you, the real MVP. Thanks to the Lifetime Longhorn, Stevie Lee, as well. And thanks to Hardgrove Roofing for sponsoring our segment with Stevie Lee. Thank you to South Point Dodge, as well as thank you to Flat Creek Estate Winery. Remember, tomorrow you'll have coffee and football starting early at 8 a.m. And then you'll have our Tuesday night live stream at 7 p.m. We got you covered at ontexasfootball.com and at the On Texas Football YouTube channel. Thank you, guys. Really make this thing fly by, and we really are grateful and blessed to have you a part of the community that we're building here for On Texas Football. All right, guys. Until next time, for Coach, for CJ, for Matthew behind the scenes, for Hardgrove Roofing, for Flat Creek Estate Winery, and for our friends at South Point Dodge. Until next time, hook 'em horns.